Hello there, Internet, Mr. Welch here, letting you know that you should play Shovel Knight. In case you haven't heard from one of the infinite number of review sites that have already said this, Shovel Knight is really, really good. You play as the titular Shovel Knight who is trying to rescue his sweetheart Shield Knight from the Tower of Fate, residence to the evil Enchantress. However, guarding the tower is the Enchantress's vicious Order of No Quarter, including Black Knight, King Knight, Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, Treasure Knight, Mole Knight, Tinker Knight, Propeller Knight, and Polar Knight. If that sounds familiar, well, it should. The game takes purposeful clues from games from the NES era like Mega Man and Castlevania. All this adds up to a marvelous platforming experience with a perfect difficulty curve. Each boss has character. Each stage has character. The random pedestrians you meet in the towns have character. There's a toad person in the first town who does nothing but tell horrible puns for God's sakes. There's a toad person in the second town who does nothing but have horrible puns told at him for double God's sakes. It has a Troupple King. Look at him! Look at him! The game also magically achieves that perfect status between hard and easy, ending up being in the Goldilocks zones of just hard enough to be challenging. When you die, and you will, you drop a sizable portion of gold in flying sacks that you can pick up again. This can be rather troublesome when you fall into a bottomless pit, making the gold irretrievable, but any gold you lose will be made up for eventually. And if you're feeling really daring, you could even bust open the checkpoints, getting a nice chunk of gold, but rendering that checkpoint useless. The gold is able to buy upgrades to your health, magic, armor, and shovel, and is also used to buy magical artifacts that operate like the items from Legend of Zelda or Castlevania games. All the relics share a magic meter that you can replenish with items or pickups. These items range from the extremely useful, like the fire rod found in the first level that I used to the end of the game, to the why do I have this, like the dust knuckles, which while being very cool in both name and function, I couldn't find a use for outside the bonus level and the last level. Yes, there are bonus levels. These act mostly as using items to grab some extra cash, but they're there and they're fun, and that's what's important. The overworld map operates like Super Mario World 3, even with bonus bosses appearing on it occasionally. This adds a nice sense of cohesion to the world and gives a sense of progress. As you travel from one side of the map to the other, you get closer and closer to the Tower of Fate, and the levels get harder and harder. And what levels they are! Castles, graveyards, the obligatory Clockwork Tower. Yes, there are only 9 main levels, one for each boss, but each of them are big and varied enough for me not to really mind. Each has its own locales and enemies, most even have a midway boss of some kind. The inclusion to this rule is the final level, which takes almost all of the enemies from the previous levels in what may be the best example of final exam stage I have ever seen. The cherry on top is a perfectly scored soundtrack by Jake Kaufman, which manages to so perfectly emulate the retro style you could actually play it on a NES or Famicom if you had the right tools. In these levels are oodles of secrets, alternate pathways, hidden treasure stashes, secret rooms, and of course the old classic, Wall Chicken. You can even find music sheets that, if you turn into a local bard, he will play the songs for you. The songs are so good the gold he gives you finding them are just gravy. There are so many secrets I'd be willing to bet that you wouldn't find them all in your first playthrough. And that's okay because the game comes equipped with a handy new Game Plus mode. It's the standard type, beat the game, start over with all your stuff, and at a higher difficulty. It even has a pretty decent story considering. Shovel Knight isn't trying to save the world, he isn't doing this because somebody told him to, he's doing it to save his girlfriend. And I'd like to note that Shield Knight isn't just some first place trophy with boobs, it's illustrated quite well that Shovel Knight is less of a knight without her. And it is only with her help does he stand any chance against the final boss. Shit, was that a spoiler? Everything is as good as I could hope for in a project like this, and Yacht Club Games is even planning more with a mode that'll let you play through the game as select members of the Order of No Quarter. The game is, above all else, a labor of love, and it shows through every facet. In this day where graphic fidelity and realism seem to come above all else, it's nice to see a group of people pump out a showstopper with a few pixels and some elbow grease.